Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
This year for the pharmaceutical companies, it's been an insanely profitable year because of the vaccines. I have a real concern, and I wonder if you share this concern, that they're going to try to continue to make the same amount of money. And the best way to do that is to continue to encourage people to be vaccinated and to create new vaccines, even if they're not necessarily the right thing to do.
If it's about making money, I'd almost prefer the vaccines get full FDA approval. You know, none of the vaccines are FDA approved.
Right.
Even Pfizer's not FDA approved.
That's literally not true. Is this like an older video or something because they haven't been approved yet? It's from 4 days ago. Okay, first of all, vaccines did get approval, okay, full-blown approval. And before that, they had emergency authorization. How many times have we talked about this? Hold on, let's watch the rest of it.
A false talking point. Pfizer has a continuation of the EUA. BioNTech, which is not in the United States, got a biological licensing agreement. That still means they have to do a lot to get approved. They have to actually have a approved package insert. They have to commit to post-marketing studies on myocarditis. They have to give safety warnings on pregnancy. They're not there yet. So no product is approved in the United States. They're all emergency.
Wait, that's not true. What the is he talking about? Also, the question you should always ask anti-vaxxers is this. Whenever they talk about the approval and emergency use authorization, ask them how many companies were involved in the Operation Warp Speed. And then ask them why they only know about Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, and Moderna. Out of all of the pharmaceutical corporations that got money from the government, why is it that they're crying about 4? What happened? Did other guys not make vaccines or try to make vaccines after getting the money from the government? No, they did. Of course they tried. Do you want to know why no one talks about that? Because their vaccines failed. Pfizer was not a part of Warp Speed either, but you know what I mean. There were 100 or even more internationally publicly funded research facilities and pharmaceutical corporations that were looking to create a vaccine. The only reason why we talk about Pfizer and all these other ones is because they were the ones that actually made a viable vaccine. That's what the emergency use authorization is. The only difference between the emergency use authorization and regular authorization is that they started mass producing while simultaneously testing. That's what the emergency use authorization is. And as a matter of fact, even if there was an instance where there were adverse effects of a vaccine, like Johnson & Johnson potentially had, or like AstraZeneca potentially had, if there were any adverse side effects, what did the governments do? Well, let me tell you, we know what the governments did. We were there. They stopped distributing Johnson & Johnson until they figured out whether or not there was any proof or any serious correlation between Johnson & Johnson vaccines and myocarditis. If that was not the case, they would have never stopped distributing Johnson & Johnson vaccines, and they would have just said, suck it the fuck up.
Approved on August 23rd, went all the way up to the President of the United States. Since when in history do we have false talking points issued out of FDA meetings that go up to the President of the United States? So they're not approved. Listen, everybody's entitled to make some money. What seems unfair about this? What seems unfair about this is the government paid for the development costs. The government pre-purchased the products, even before they knew it was going to work or not work. And we know that with a new pharmaceutical company, a new product that was developed by a pharmaceutical company, whether it's a new company or existing company, we know a benchmark for a blockbuster drug would be $1 billion of sales in its first year. That's a benchmark. And typically
I love that the anti-big pharma guy is also subscribing to the most capitalist big pharma way of defending pharmaceutical corporations or using benchmarks for pharmaceutical corporations in the form of how many drugs they can fucking sell. Search this guy on Google. He's literally being sued by the hospital he worked at, Lemafayette. He's just doing full grift shit. Omegalol. He's pushing multi-drug therapy against vaccination, basically ivermectin and stuff. Oh, Baylor Health sues COVID-19 vaccine skeptic and demands Dallas doctors to stop using its name. Sorry.
For that $1 billion is spent on the sales force. There's a investment of billions of dollars in R&D. Do you know with the vaccines that Pfizer in its first year hit $33 billion? And now I think next year, $36 billion. No development costs. The government, no sales force. because they don't have to sell the vaccine. They are just the suppliers.
Dr. Peter McCullough is a member of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, which is the conservative political advocacy group that promotes blatantly false information. The association's Journal of American Physicians and Surgeons, have published the following articles and commentaries that claim that human activity has not contributed to climate change and that global warming will be beneficial and thus is not a cause for concern. Wow. Interesting. The HIV does not cause AIDS. The gay male lifestyle shortens life expectancy by 20 years. That there is a link between abortion and the risk of breast cancer, that there are possible links between autism and vaccinations, that government efforts to encourage... Dude, I hate this country. These people should not be fucking publishing these medical journals. They should be on a ship being exiled to like Australia or something. People that abuse their position of authority undermine the sanctity or lack thereof now, but like they completely destroy the reason why we have legitimate institutions overall. Dr. Peter McCullough's membership within such an unscientific and blatantly political organization raises some troubling questions. If he's okay with being involved in an organization that makes the above listed claims, what else is he okay with? Check articles maybe. Why believe OP blindly? I'm not believing OP blindly. I already am familiar with the American Physicians and Surgeons. They're one of the many groups formed by conservative think tanks that utilize people in positions of authority and knowledge to fucking pump out all manner of different conservative agitprop.
To the government program.
Is that a dangerous relationship?
What's dangerous is not fair balance. If we had FDA-approved products, you see them on TV. When's the last time you saw a drug commercial? Let's say you have a drug that's for psoriasis. Oh, my psoriasis is cleared up. Remember the people diving in a pool and they don't have any psoriasis. They have beautiful skin. They're happy and they're dancing. Okay, you take a psoriasis drug, Joe. It says, warning, may cause tuberculosis. Get a TB test. Warning. There's fair balance. That's the U.S. Drug and Cosmetic Act. That's the Landman Act. There must be fair balance. Every product has a risk and a benefit. Every product has a risk and benefit. We can never propose a product to anybody in the United States without fair balance. You mentioned myocarditis, and I have to tell you, since you had him on the show, and since we're both graduates of the University of Michigan, which, by the way, is, I think it's one of the better places in the United States. He went to medical school there. I went to graduate school there. I went to UT Southwestern. I finished top of my class. I'm a Alpha Omega Alpha. The doctors who are in the know how to treat COVID-19. We're no chump change. I went to the University of Washington in Seattle, top medical residency program in the United States. I'm the most published person in my field in world history. I have 51 publications in COVID-19. I have U.S. Senate testimony. A judge just relied on my testimony to overturn the entire mandates for the whole country. I'm telling you, I
wonder how that happened. Maybe you were a part of a network of fucking conservative psychos that mobilized you on behalf of their own personal material interests. God, Joe Rogan heard all of this and didn't even go, wow. Before he did the Navy SEALs copy pasta, the mother started off the conversation by saying the FDA approval is fake. That's a conversation ender. That's not a starter. You say that in the end of the conversation so you can fucking lie and like build at least some level of familiarity before you drop such a fucking easily destroyable argument.
had an interview with Tucker Carlson. He started getting worked up. He looked at the monitor. He goes, if you don't know who this doctor is, why don't you look at him? He goes, he has authority. And he's right. I do have authority, Joe. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because what's going on here is that we have a situation where we have people in positions of authority. The person you had on here in a position of authority was Sanjay Gupta. And I'm going to pick on him a little bit because Sanjay Gupta came on Sesame Street, and I want to show the graphic if I don't have it. He came on Sesame Street, and
Mr. Serious Doctor going on Joe Rogan to talk about serious doctor shit, like Sanjay Gupta going on Sesame Street.
Did is with another CNN correspondent, he was actually seducing children into taking the vaccine.
Yeah, I saw that. It's very disturbing.
He was seducing children into taking the vaccine? Oh my God. Straight up, Joe Rogan is worse than Fox News right now. Saying like he's seducing children to take the vaccine is like InfoWars shit.
Okay, seducing. I am telling you, no good doctor would do that because there must be risks and benefits. Did he tell the kids and the parents there's FDA warnings that this can cause heart inflammation? Did the other CNN correspondent, who's a mother, did she even show an ounce of concern? What Scott Atlas uses in his book, Joe's, the term he uses is off the rails. We're off the rails. People in positions of authority are doing bad things, trying to seduce children into taking a vaccine that has official FDA warnings on it without giving fair balance. That's malfeasance. That's wrongdoing by people in position of authority. There should never be an official on TV that says the vaccines are safe and effective, take them. Listen, they have to be proven.
What the fuck is he saying, bro? Why is this the Jordan Peterson of being anti-vax? I love this guy.
Show us the safety and show us the efficacy and let people make a choice. One cannot conclude that they're safe and effective without showing any data. I would never do that. If you go back to, this is Sanjay Gupta and the CNN correspondent.
Yeah, I've seen it.
There was no fair balance there. I got nauseated when I saw that.
It's just bizarre that he would do that. I don't understand it.
Well, remember, he parroted a talking point that our head of the National Allergy and Immunology Branch parroted. They said that there was no data for ivermectin.
The funniest thing is, does this guy not know how people get the vaccine? Like, they fucking ask you a bunch of different questions. They monitor you after you get the vaccine to make sure that you don't have any, like, adverse side effects. You don't just, like, roll up and you're like, jab me up, baby.
They said it was a horse dewormer. Now, either they knew or they should have.
Wait, what the fuck? It literally is, though. That's the most common application for it. Unless we have a serious problem with, like, fucking river blindness. Pretty sure ivermectin can be used for humans, but, like, most common application of ivermectin in this country is horse-based. And also, a lot of people couldn't get ivermectin, so they actually were using horse dewormer.
Would have known the 63 supportive studies and of the over 30 randomized trials. Hey, that's a court of law. Either you knew or you should have known. A person in a position of authority either knew or should have known. Scott Atlas says they're incompetent. They don't know. That's what he says. Bring him on. He'll tell you. He thinks they're incompetent. I'm not so sure. It's either they knew or they should have known. Either one of those is good. Either he knows or he should have known. Either one is not good. Which one is it?
Right.
Ask him. Ask him. Give him a call. Which one is it? Do you know about the myocarditis risks? Or should you know?
He most certainly knows because I showed it to him on the show. I mean, that was a weird moment on the show, in fact, because he was trying to look at the results and spin it the other way.
Oh, come on, bro. This is it? I need more. This is it? Part 2? Let's go! Chatter, you're a fucking
The
savior.
Joe Rogan Experience.
The virus, SARS-CoV-2, the virus, has got two very unique things as a viral syndrome. The first is this cytokine storm or this hyperimmune activation. It would be immunocompromised. You're talking about general comorbidity categories like diabetes, obesity, heart and lung disease, kidney disease, chronic cancer. Those are basically risk factors for hospitalization and death with COVID. And there's a reason why, by the way, particularly obesity. You know what it is?
Yeah, we talked about it, but please explain it because I can't repeat it.
The virus, SARS-CoV-2, the virus, has got two very unique things as a viral syndrome. The first is this cytokine storm or this hyperimmune activation. And that cytokine storm leads with the most unique cytokine, interleukin-6. We've never seen this before. Interleukin-6 is produced by human fat cells.
This is my favorite fucking take. They're like, yeah, brother, it only kills fatties, brother. And it's like, well, dog, you're fat. And I don't even know if the virus gets on fat cells is like confirmed peer-reviewed study.
So the virus triggers human fat cells to produce a ton of interleukin-6, which itself is damaging. And so those who are fat have a much greater depot and an ability to produce the cytokine storm. That's the reason why obesity is an exquisite risk factor for mortality. It's because of the unique cytokine signature of SARS-CoV-2. The other thing that's unique about the infection is blood clotting. We've never seen an infection that causes blood clotting. This blood clotting is in the final pathway to death with this virus because of the spike protein. The spike protein attaches to sialic acid residues on the surface of red blood cells. It causes red blood cell aggregation. It trips off the coagulation cascade in an interesting way. And we can see this in patients where we see a D-dimer level that's elevated. And doctors learned to actually, as a signature of COVID-19, the D-dimer levels, when they're elevated, it actually means this coagulation process is likely going on.
So the compromise of the immune system that comes about from obesity, is it scalable? Is it like if you are 100 pounds overweight, is it much worse than if you're 40 pounds overweight?
It's clearly scalable.
So that's something that should have been discussed publicly, along with the drugs, along with the possible early treatment options.
Well, if we could have, in a perfect world, if we addressed all 4 pillars of the pandemic response, if we did what Bangladesh did and just start actually doing the oral nasal hygiene approach.
Is that what they did right away?
That's where the trials were done. They're almost down to zero COVID. There's 160 million people. They're on top of each other over there. They're down to almost zero COVID because they've got the discipline down to when they go out in public settings. When you went out with that guy with a headache, when you came home, just do the oral nasal decontamination, you would have knocked down the viral particles enough where your body probably would have fought off the rest and you don't get the syndrome. Do you know
What? Oh my God. Oh, he's crazy. Bro, COVID can't hurt you. You just got to blow your nose, dude. Get a fucking neti pot. Tell me he sells the nasal spray.
Patients right now, when they're coming down with COVID, we actually blast with the dilute povidone iodine in the nose and the mouth. We blast every 4 hours while awake, and we knock down the viral load, particularly with Delta. Delta has 251 to 1,000 times viral load in the nose, so it's replicating like mad, and we can knock it down and reduce the amount of viral...
Wait, let me guess. Is this guy an anti-masker too? It's like, don't wear a mask, don't get vaccinated. Every 4 hours, take a neti pot and blow it up your fucking nose with this like concoction that I put together. How about wear a mask, social distance, and get vaccinated? Nope. No way.
Inoculum in the human.
Wait, what is this? Please give this man your attention in all caps. This guy was like, you have to give this man your attention. Why not just get vaccinated? Yo, vaccinated, Giga Chad, you must. What's up, Austin?
Body. I personally had COVID, Joe. It was in the fall of 2020. I didn't know about this. It baked in my nose and mouth for about 3 days. And I sat there. I did nothing. I was scrambling for oral drugs. Why didn't I knock it down with some type of treatment in the nose? Chronic sinusitis patients have been using neti pots or they've been using saline rinses. All we have to do is add a little peroxide or a little bit iodine to that and knock down the viral load. I could have had a much milder syndrome.
So that would be one way to approach it. That you feel is very effective. This other protocol that you have established is another great.
Aren't neti pots really dangerous too? I remember reading an article a long ass time ago about how neti pots can fucking give you brain worms or something. Like, I'm not even kidding. FDA is warning that the improper use of neti pots can be dangerous and lead to infections, including the deadly Naegleria fowleri, better known as the brain-eating amoeba. Yeah, I was right. In a statement, the FDA said that when used and cleaned properly, neti pots are usually safe and effective. The first rule of safety is to only rinse with distilled, sterile, or previously boiled water. Tap water isn't safe to use as a nasal rinse because it's not adequately filtered or treated and may contain low levels of organisms such as bacteria and amoebas. These organisms may be harmless to swallow because stomach acid kills them, but they can stay alive in nasal passages and cause potentially serious infections. And in rare cases, these infections can be fatal.
Great way to approach it. Are there people that are in agreement or disagreement with you that you like, disagreement in particular, that you respect and you see some merit in what they're saying?
Well, the disagreement would be don't treat patients.
That's it.
Think about it. Well, when I published the paper in the American Journal of Medicine, so I was the first person in the world to put a stake in the ground saying that we can treat COVID-19 at home and prevent hospitalization.
Has anyone said to you, don't treat patients? I mean, so...
The letters of the editor came in, Joe. There was about 6 of them. They came in from Duke, from Monash, from, I think, McGill in Montreal, from Europe, South America. They said, Dr. McCullough, you can't treat COVID patients. I was like, what? They said, you can't treat, you don't have enough evidence. You can't do this. You could cause harm. And Joe Alpert.
Yeah, no shit they said that because they were right. Just because you're a fucking doctor doesn't mean that you can like publish a fucking non-peer-reviewed medical journal before it gets fucking peer-reviewed and clapped into oblivion. That is not, you're not a victim of cancel culture there. Anyway.
As the editor of American Journal of Medicine, he let this go on. Every letter came back and I said, overcome your fear and let's break the grip of therapeutic and let's start treating patients to prevent hospitalization and death. And in our circles, there is no discussion. I was in the endowed lecture at Harvard 2 years ago. It was fanfare, me and my wife, all these pictures, everything is wonderful. Do you know not a single institution has invited me to lecture on the early treatment of COVID-19? Remember, Harvard doesn't treat people.
You can't fucking do the, once again, I'm being canceled for having new ideas. If your new ideas are just like psychotic.
Neither is Mayo Clinic. Neither is UCLA. Neither is a medical school here in Austin. They don't treat a single patient. They have nothing to offer. When Didier Rialt set up his treatment program in Marseille, he put out tents outside the medical center there. They tried to shut him down. He goes, listen, I'm going to treat patients because they're sick. They have, Marseille, if you've ever been there, it's all these retired older French citizens, pretty well-to-do. They're down on the French Riviera. They were getting sick with COVID-19. He opened up an outpatient treatment center, and he started treating people and started gathering his data. They tried to shut him down. They took hydroxychloroquine. They made it over the counter. If he was, there's been doctors, there was a doctor arrested in South Africa for using ivermectin, for crying out loud. There has been suppression. And where we know...
My man is still pumping out hydroxychloroquine when Facebook moved on. There has been a million studies at this point conducted that shows that hydroxychloroquine is in no way, shape, or form a good way to treat COVID. It has no negligible impact in COVID treatment and COVID recovery. I thought we destroyed the hydroxychloroquine argument when Donald Trump himself went to Walter Reed and was not given hydroxychloroquine. But this guy, he's still keeping it going. I love this.
Things really got obtuse is when we came to the monoclonal antibodies. These monoclonal antibodies, they really work. And let me tell you what, we've got 3 terrific ones now. We have Lilly is back with a combination of bamlanivimab and ertesivimab, which is wonderful. We have Regeneron, which Trump received, which is a combination of imdimimab and carasivimab. And now GSK, since May, has socherivimab. Socherivimab is actually antibodies directed against the glycoprotein, so it's going to be basically...
Wait, I don't understand. And this is a serious question, chat. Maybe you can help me with this. Why do we need any of this if we just have the neti? Why is he an anti-masker? Like, he thinks you can physically push out the virus, but any sort of physical barrier that prevents the virus from escaping your nose and mouth is considered unacceptable. If he was a mask advocate and he was like, the neti pot is good, I'd be like, all right, at least he's consistent.
Resistant to any mutant strains. These antibodies in general, all the studies show, given early, have at least a 50%, if not an 85% reduction in hospitalization and death.
I took them.
I use them every day, Joe.
Yeah, I took it when I got sick, and I think it's one of the primary reasons why I got better so quickly.
And glycoprotein, so it's going to be basically resistant to any mutant strains. These antibodies in general, all the studies show, given early, have at least a 50%, if not an 85% reduction in hospitalization and death.
I took them.
I use them every day, Joe.
Yeah,
Wait, so they're on board with the monoclonal antibodies? That's an experimental treatment that the FDA offered emergency use authorization. Why do they pick and choose like this? That's the thing that I don't understand, and I will never understand. I love when people are like, hey, I don't want to get 2 fucking jabs, or 1 if you want to get the J&J one. So what I'm going to do instead is get COVID and then have to go to the fucking hospital where I get like a fuckload of shit pumped into my system. Okay? And that is more expensive. Monoclonal antibodies are an experimental treatment that they give you if you are in the worst fucking stage. Again, it doesn't matter though. Joe Rogan quite literally uses experimental steroids. Like, he uses steroids. He sells on it. He sells non-FDA approved fucking substances in the form of vitamins and shit like that. He sells nootropics. And he fucking takes HGH. So, like, this guy telling you about what to put and what not to put in your body is fucking psychotic.